Today we are making linguine Alfredo, but it's not a normal Alfredo sauce. There's no cream in this. This is an al burro. Excuse my Italian, but it is butter-based. There's no fat. I'm going to use a pan. I got water boiling. That pan, that is not the water pan, is cold. There will be no heat used during the process, except for maybe at the very end. But take it out, let it sit out on the stove. You do not need to heat that up. First, though, we're going to grate Parmesan. This dish is just butter and Parmesan, little bit of pasta water, and that is your traditional Alfredo sauce. This, from what I've learned, is how it's done in Italy for years. Americans add cream to it. This is not that. This is a much lighter dish, but the amount of cheese you're going to need is dependent on how much pasta you have, how much creaminess you like in it. So just get a whole bunch of that really grated up. You can use pre-grated if you need to, but I do not recommend it. It does not melt down beautifully. We're also going to chop up some parsley here for just at the very end. Move that to the side, and then the first step here is to get your pasta cooking. I'm using linguine. You can use fettuccine. You could even use a bucatini or a spaghetti if you want, but just get that into the boiling water. Twist it in whenever you can, unless you have a pot that's big enough to just drop it right into. Let that cook fully, not till it's a minute from al dente, but until you would eat it. Next, we're going to add the cold butter. It's been sitting out at room temperature for a little bit. Add that right onto your pan. As you can see, it starts to melt a little bit just from the ambient heat. Let that keep going, and then once your pasta's done, pour it right in there. This comes together super quickly. Put that in. You don't care about the water. It's totally fine. Mix that up just so it kind of coats it in all that butter that melted. Yeah, it's a lot of butter, I know, but just following how this is done. Then we're going to add in that parm. Mix that all together, and you can see right off the bat, this actually starts to emulsify into a nice sauce. The more you move it, the more air you put into it, the better emulsification you're going to get. So just keep this pasta really moving. Things that will help this emulsify, though, are giving it a nice little toss, adding pasta water. All those things we're going to do shortly, but it needed more cheese. Throw that cheese in. Here's the pasta water. Add in a little bit. You're just using the starch to really start to bring it together. But you can see at this point, it really becomes a sauce. If you do need to add a little bit of heat to your pan at this point, that's totally fine. Don't turn it on blast, but just keep maybe a little bit down there just so it stays nice and warm. I'm going to toss this around a bit because that air really emulsifies the sauce beautifully. And as you can see, it's not runny. There's no loose oil sitting at the pan. Nothing separating. This is kind of like a cacio e pepe in a sense, but obviously a little different. But it's the same theory. It's the same practice. You're making a sauce off the heat that's coming together beautifully emulsified. And look at that. There's a little stringy piece of cheese there that came off my tongs. Don't worry about that. But that's beautiful. Let's plate this up and enjoy. As you can see, I tried to twirl it. It didn't work. You don't need to do that. But you can see from the little sauce that's left on the side, it's not watery, it's not running. It sits where it's put, which is what it's doing on the noodles. It's coating them beautifully. You could top this with a little bit of black pepper at this point if you want. Obviously, take some cheese out. Throw that cheese over it, whatever you want. If you want to use a different cheese at this point to coat it, that's also totally fine. And then we're also just going to top it with a little bit of that parsley, and you're done. This came together from the time you put that pasta in the water until you're eating it. The noodles were about 12 minutes, and I had this plated within 15 minutes total. In that pan, it moves incredibly quickly, and there you go. A very easy pasta al burro. Some people call it burro e parmesan. This is just a creamless Alfredo sauce. It's light. It's beautiful. This is how you should make it.